Hello and welcome. I'm Erin Anderson, the managing editor of the canfitpro magazine. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning as we discuss the science of restorative yoga with Tracy Glennon. Welcome, Tracy, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Excited to be doing this. Excited.
Yes, it's a great way. Technology is a wonderful thing. So thank you for being with us on the other end of the internet here. Before we dive in, Tracy, I'd like to ask you if you could please share with us a little bit of your background and your role in the fitness industry.
Sure. I've been involved in the fitness industry for probably half my life now in some capacity. I spent many years in a senior operational leadership role with GoodLife Fitness, and spent a good portion of that also teaching and being part of the fitness community. I present for canfitpro. I think I've been presenting for almost 20 years in some capacity for canfit. And I recently opened Drop Yoga, which is a community events company, in the hopes of bringing yoga to the community, bringing together instructors and teachers and participants, and making yoga more accessible to all.
That's wonderful. Thank you. You can also catch Tracy presenting as a presenter with her own couple of sessions, as well as a panel member at our Fit Montreal event from March 27th to the 29th. So I bet you're looking forward to that.
I am. I was there last year, so I'm looking forward to seeing some familiar and some new faces again.
Great, great. Well, we'll dive right in. So let's start with the fact that there's a lot of different styles of yoga out there. Some of them a little bit more restorative than others by nature. Two that are really common are Yin Yoga and Restorative Yoga. Can you explain the difference between Yin Yoga and restorative for us?
Yeah, I'm going to say that for Yin Yoga, Yin sort of follows certain principles in the attempt to bring you out of your muscles and into your joints. So it really tries to open up space in your joints and release some tension that might exist around the joints in terms of tendons, ligaments, fascia, etc. It does so with minimal prop use. There are some use of props. And it takes you to a point where you are comfortably uncomfortable. So there is no pain in Yin, but there's certainly some work happening in Yin. Restorative is a little more passive. In restorative, we try to take all muscular tension out of the body, and you'll see people, propped up with blankets and bolsters and blocks and everything in the attempt to release all muscular tension. In Yin, we're sort of playing with a fine line between finding tension and releasing tension at the same time, and allowing our body to trust us as we progress through a pose.
Excellent. Great comparison there and a great description. When we hear the word yin, we often automatically think of the word yang that kind of goes with it, the yin and yang. So where does the yang fit into that?
So when we think of yang, I think of yang as something that brings energy to our muscles. And when I think of yin, I think of something where we are trying to settle into our joints and our connective tissue. And so if you think of a yang pose, I always think of a warrior pose, something that you really feel that your muscles are working. You think of a yin pose and you think of something where you're settling and relaxing more. So it's, they really are sort of the total opposite. Most classes are a combination of both. They really are, you do strength and relaxation poses, whereas in Yin, you really try to get out of the muscles altogether.
Okay, excellent. What could someone expect in a class if they were to come to a class from anything from the music to the lighting to the flow? What would that look like?
Yeah, it's funny when people come to Yin, I feel like I'm inviting them on a first date or something, because they walk into my room and there's candles and it's dark and the lighting is, either minimal or none. The music is very low. There's usually not any words to the music as well. And so when someone comes into a Yin class, what we need to do is settle into stillness, which is difficult for people. So when people walk in, I usually recommend that they don't go into a full posture right away, because people are used to going into their fullest expression of a pose. And we need to learn in Yin to take a step back and take baby steps into poses. So in a Yin class, you might do 6 to 10 poses maximum. You really do spend time. So one of the biggest factors is that the length of time that we're in poses in yin is significantly longer than a standard yoga class. So if I teach a regular yoga class, we might take 5, 10, 15 breaths in a pose. In yin, you'll be in a pose from 2 to 4 minutes, sometimes longer. So the length of the poses changes for sure. And I think the quiet atmosphere is a difference as well. So we don't just look for space in our body, but we look for some space in our mind. So there's usually less instruction so that there is some silence that we can settle into within a yin class as well.
Okay, so in delving into that a little bit further, what is that science? How does yin yoga work? And why is it so beneficial and effective for the mind and the body?
So this is interesting. I think what yin teaches us the most is to trust ourselves and trust our body. So we are used to, as a society in yoga classes, pushing ourselves often to the point that we feel our muscles start to respond by shaking. And when our muscles are shaking or contracting, they're actually doing the exact opposite of what we want them to do, unless we're in a strength pose. So really what they're telling us is, I don't feel really safe right now. I'm going to contract to protect myself. And in a yin class, what we're trying to do is avoid that, yet still be able to increase or lengthen or allow for space in our joints. So by taking baby steps into things, our body says, I'm safe, I'm propped up, I'm in a comfortable position. And then we move a little deeper and it says, I'm still safe, I'm okay, I'll relax again. And it allows our body to step by step relax through things. And so by doing that, what it does is it gets our body to understand that not only can it relax, but our mind can relax. And then if our mind relaxes in turn yet again, our body says, I think I'm safe to relax. So it's not that the science of yin is that different from other yoga types. It's that we seem to have taken other yoga types and really found the more athletic side of them. And we need to step back a little bit again. So true stretching should be, the way that yin is, where you don't ever overstretch to the point that your body feels that it's unsafe. And yin takes us back to that place, I think.
Okay, very interesting. What would be one common myth that you hear about yin yoga, that like you hear it often? What's that myth?
I think it's maybe that it's boring. And the reason is I feel that it's the exact opposite. I think it's that it's challenging, but it's challenging for our mind. So people come into yoga and they're like, oh, we only did 6 poses, in a yin class, because we're so used to being busy. And to step back and be able to allow ourselves to spend time within ourselves is challenging at times. So I think that the idea that yin is boring is actually a cover for the fact that maybe we're not always ready to spend some time in our own mind, in our own space, or in stillness. And so it is challenging. People's minds keep whirling even though their body's not moving in a class. And I think that it's a misperception. I think what it really is that it's a challenge for us to be in. I think that's probably the most common one I hear.
Well, it's true, right? One of the things that I've heard in terms of practicing as well is that one of the most challenging poses is Shavasana, lying
Yeah.
there, being able to, just be and be with your thoughts and relax. So slow down, as you said, right?
Yeah.
So we hear more about the benefits of slowing down and staying present. We're in such this fast-paced, technologically advanced society where it's instant results and rewards, and we've kind of come to expect that. And it's almost commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
How do you encourage those who do think it's boring or find it hard to stay still to add this into their practice, to add this into their lifestyle? So what would you say to those individuals, or what would you do to encourage those individuals to actually continue on with it or start or try it?
Mm-hmm. So I find it very interesting that when we think of an athlete would never be told, go out and run a marathon. An athlete would be given a training plan, and they might start by running, there's a trend right now, it's run 1.6 kilometers a day or something. And they would take those baby steps and they would reflect upon them, what worked, what didn't work, and slowly increase endurance or resistance or whatever it is in any training plan. Yet when it comes to meditation or yin, we throw people in and they expect to sit down for 20 minutes and meditate or go to a full 90-minute yin class. And they haven't done that prep work to allow themselves to get there. So if someone is struggling settling into a 5 or 10-minute shavasana at the end of class, how are they possibly going to go to a 90-minute yin and spend time with themselves? So my advice would be to take the same baby steps and practice that an athlete would if they were working to something that was a longer or bigger goal, and do it in components. So spend time sitting by yourself, spend time lying down just with your thought. Go to a class and say to an instructor, I'm new. And the instructor is more than likely to encourage you to do what you can, sit by the door and leave when you need to leave quietly. At least I do. Because I think people need time to really start to grasp the fact that it's okay to be in silence or to have space in your mind. And so I would encourage people to do it step by step. It's like meditation. An app will tell you meditate for 30 seconds. The next day a minute. The next day 90 seconds.
So true.
Same steps with yin. Yeah, practice a pose or two at home and see, can I be in a pose in a comfortable position for 2 minutes on each side? And where does my mind go in that time? And how do I bring it back? If you're in a class, the instructor will often bring you back to breath work. And your breath work in yin is as important as any other power yoga class, for example, where it's not about the type of breathing that you do, it's that your breathing doesn't change, that your breathing is consistent, that your breathing doesn't feel hindered all of a sudden because your body's telling you something if it does. So if you can practice these small little steps at home, you might have a better opportunity to get into a class and settle and not feel as stressed about the length of the time. And then maybe you get comfortable spending time in your own mind.
Very good. Yeah, it's true. As with anything, right? It is a practice. As they say, it's yoga practice, not yoga perfect, right?
Yep.
So our journey is always that practice, and we're never really ending in any destination of any sort. So those are some great advice there. So thank you very much for sharing that. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you want to say about Yin Yoga or add on at all?
I think one of the things I'm noticing a lot of athletes come to Yin, and they're realizing that in traditional yoga classes, I teach a lot of hot or a lot of power, a lot of vinyasa classes. We spend a lot of time on strength, a lot of time on balance. We don't spend as much time, maybe the second half or the last 20 minutes of the class will be on actually stretching. And so for people who are looking to increase flexibility, sometimes we go to a yoga class once a week and we wonder why we still can't bend down to tie our shoes.
True.
And you might feel stronger bending down to tie your shoes, for example, or have more balance when you do it. But are you actually in a class that's encouraging you to lengthen muscle? So if one of the things that you're looking for is the benefit of flexibility, then I encourage people to try Yin. It's a different take on it. You spend more time, as we've said, per pose, and therefore the benefits within that muscle group or around that joint can be greater as well. So for people looking to increase flexibility, I highly recommend Yin. I think it would be a good addition to their other fitness regime.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I guess we'll wrap up. I just want to say thank you again for chatting with us. And it's been a pleasure. And just for anyone out there just listening in, I'd like to give one last reminder that if you are interested in learning and experiencing more Yin Yoga, to join Tracy at Fit Montreal from March 27th to the 29th. She is presenting 2 sessions there as well as being part of a panel. So thank you again, Tracy. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Have a great day, Erin.
You too. Thanks.